We go over some examples of the fundamental forms, valid and invalid forms, identifying them out of written arguments. If any of you got this was a sheet that I handed out in class on Wednesday. I'll go through the first 5 and then I'll do the second 5 in a part 2 of this video. Got a little, and the numbering might be a little mixed up. I had 2 different sheets that I handed out, so if you don't see the numbering, it should be the same general arguments on each. But I have a key over here with just a reminder of the valid and invalid forms for disjunctive syllogism, pure hypothetical syllogism, and then both of the types of mixed hypothetical syllogisms. The valid form modus ponens, the invalid form modus tollens, and then the affirming the consequent fallacy and denying the antecedent fallacy, and then valid and invalid for those. So again, just like we did with categorical syllogisms using translations, first thing we want to do is look for premise indicators and conclusion indicators. And for structuring the argument, we always want to identify the conclusion first and then fill in the 2 premises. So first one, Colorado Springs or Lakewood is in Colorado. So Colorado is not, Lakewood is not in Colorado because Colorado Springs is in Colorado. So let's identify so would be our conclusion indicator, because is a premise indicator, so we know the first and the last statement are going to be premises. So let's fill in, I'll just use this, it's a little tight, but our conclusion is going to be Lakewood is not in Colorado. So let's say tilde L, so not L, that's our conclusion. Colorado Springs is in Colorado or Lakewood is in Colorado. Let's go C or L. And then finally, our last premise is Colorado Springs is in Colorado. So just C, simple proposition C. So we have C or L, C, not L. Obviously, this one's going to be a disjunctive syllogism, so let's look at our valid and invalid forms. Valid form includes negating one of the disjuncts and then confirming the other disjunct. But in this one, we're affirming one of the disjuncts, and then for our conclusion, we're negating the other disjunct. That looks like it would be our invalid form. So this one is invalid. Second one, we can be sure that all mammals are animals. We know this because all mammals have fur, or all mammals are animals, and it is not the case that all mammals have fur. So again, let's look at our indicators. Leading off this statement, we know this because all mammals have fur, or all mammals are mammals, and we know that the last 2 statements are going to be our premise indicators. So we're left with this statement for our conclusion. So we can be sure that all mammals are animals. All mammals are animals is going to be our conclusion. So let's just say, let's go with M for that. And we know this because, so the first premise is going to be all mammals have fur. Let's represent that with an F. Or all mammals are animals. We'll say M. And our second premise is going to be, it is not the case that all mammals have fur. So not F. This is another disjunctive syllogism, and it looks like we're denying one of the disjuncts and affirming the other disjunct. So that looks like it's going to be a valid form disjunctive syllogism. This is an invalid. Oops. Invalid disjunctive syllogism. Number 2 is a valid disjunctive syllogism. Number 3, if I walk into a coffee shop, then I will leave with an iced latte. I just walked into a coffee shop to meet my friend Tom. Therefore, I will leave with an iced latte. Right off the bat, therefore, is a conclusion indicator. So the first premise, if I walk into a coffee shop, then I will leave with an iced latte. Let's go. If C, then L. Second premise, I just walked into a coffee shop. So we're affirming that C. And then the conclusion, I will leave with an iced latte, is L. This one's pretty intuitive. This one looks like modus ponens here, where we're affirming the antecedent, and then we can conclude with the consequent. So this is valid. We can just go ahead and call it modus ponens. If it snows today, you will take the bus to work. I can conclude that it did not snow today because you did not take the bus to work. So this is going to be a premise indicator. I can conclude that is going to be our conclusion indicator. So let's start with our, I don't have a lot of room for this one. So our conclusion is going to be, it did not snow today. So let's go not S. Our first premise, if it snows today, you will take the bus to work. So if S, then B. And second premise, you did not take the bus to work today. So not B. So this looks like it's going to be a mixed hypothetical syllogism. We go over here, and it looks like we're negating the consequent, which is what we're doing right here in modus tollens. So we can just go ahead and call this modus tollens. So it's a valid mixed hypothetical syllogism, and the Latin name that we're using is modus tollens. So number 5, if Colorado is on the ocean, then there is a lot to do outside there. Colorado's not on the ocean. Therefore, there's not a lot to do outside there. So therefore, going to be our conclusion indicator. Squeeze it in down here. There's not a lot to do outside there. Let's just say L, not L. If Colorado is on the ocean, then there's a lot to do outside there. If O, then L. And then finally, our second premise is going to be Colorado's not on the ocean. So not O. So we have if O, then L. We're denying the antecedent, which is the fallacy right there. So denying the antecedent fallacy of the mixed hypothetical syllogism. We have invalid mixed hypothetical syllogism. And then the fallacy committed. Let's say that. You can also say denying the antecedent is the fallacy that's committed. So I'll have a part 2 video with the next 5 questions.